Hi everyone, my name is Raewyn Ng. I am a movement and functional health coach, and welcome to today's PT graduate. Um, our guest today is Mr. Rich Ellis, who runs Fit for Life in Auckland and Greenhive. Welcome, Rich.
That's great to be here. Thanks for agreeing to be the host for an episode.
Bit of a role reversal here, isn't it?
It sure is. It's going to be
Yeah.
quite difficult for me to not just, want to keep asking all the questions.
When you asked me to do this, it made me think a little bit about those train the trainer days.
Yeah,
Yep, a little bit interview the interviewer. So here we are.
yeah.
It
Cool.
is your 200th episode today, which I think is an amazing achievement for a podcast. So you've been at this for a little while now, Rich.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I have. I have. I'm really chuffed to have managed to get to 200. That feels like quite a milestone. It's surprising how much work goes on behind the scenes. You're always chipping away at it. And some weeks I probably don't chip enough, and other weeks I do just what I need to do to keep it going. And I try and slip in some, promotional stuff in there so that people know what's going on. And really, it's about getting the most out of the guest and connecting with them and finding out about them. Some people I know well, some people I don't know well. So it's always a really good experience. That's kind of the other main reason that I do it. And I suppose it started back in sort of 2020-ish time before COVID when me and Matt Norris were doing Facebook Lives, and we would interview people like this, and we had software that connected straight to a Facebook page, and so the conversation would go on that Facebook page, and people could, if they were on Facebook, they could tune in and just listen, like you do, and then the pandemic hit, and Matt decided to start building some retail businesses online, which made a lot of sense because of not being able to see his clients. He had a premises in West Auckland, and so obviously that shut down for decent amounts of time. And I said to him, "Look, I quite like this chat stuff. Shall I carry on doing it?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, you just carry on." And so I sort of turned it into an actual podcast so that all of the conversations were saved somewhere. People could go back and have a listen. And our sort of reason for doing it was just to give back. We wanted people that were falling out of the industry to stay in for longer and have careers, and that attrition rate was and I think still is running quite high. And it's not easy to get into a new industry and start a business and realize that you've got all these technical skills, but you may not have all the necessary business skills or support that makes it successful. So we wanted to help bridge that gap, providing some of the things we'd learnt along the way, but also asking that of our guests and finding out what they had learnt over the years in their businesses. And by talking to a really broad section of people, there'd be some real nuggets in there for people to go, ah, yes, I like that. I'll use that. And I didn't know that. So that's something new. And my accountant didn't tell me, and all these little bits and pieces that you just pick up along the way. And hopefully they're not big enough to break the business, but they're good learning things along the way. And so that was really where it came from and why it still carries on. Yeah.
Oh, great. That's cool. So you've had, well, 200 or so guests on there. You must have had some really good insights yourself as you bring
Hmm.
people along as well and learnt lots yourself.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And it's interesting, so looking back at the episodes that had, you know, significant numbers listening compared to others. And it isn't just about the quality of the conversation or the person. Sometimes it's about the quality of their social connections. So, they're
Absolutely.
very good at promoting themselves. They're very good at sharing, and so their audience tunes in and wants to listen. But the reason they want to listen is because they rate the person as well. So I think there's a couple of things going on there.
Mm.
So I've noticed that. And the other thing I've noticed is that some people are PTs and they're sort of solopreneurs. Some people are gym owners and they've got a team. And then there's sort of lots of sort of nuance in between. But the ones that are serious and dedicated and take it, they apply themselves. They work bloody hard, and they create a really good community around them, whether that be a gym community of members or clients that work with PTs. That's another theme or element that I see with the successful ones because they realize it's more than just a business relationship. They realize that they're at the center of a lot of people's health worlds, and we see our clients more regularly than they'll see their GPs or their physios. We have those contact points that are much
Absolutely.
higher. And I
Yeah.
think the smart ones have cottoned onto that and have done a lot other than just build the individual relationship about community. And I've got a thousand different stories that along those lines as well, probably.
But I think as I reflect on how some people might have more listenership because they're sharing with their communities, I mean, some of that comes down to, that thing that Janera Linton Osich always says,
Yeah.
people will buy from you when they know, like, and trust you. So
Mm,
if
mm,
people can express what their stories are and they get that connection with their community, then they're more
mm.
likely to tune in and listen as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's this it works on multiple layers, doesn't it? Levels.
Mm.
It's funny you talk about know, like, and trust. I literally just got off an education session with an Aussie couple of ladies in Australia who are in the sales game, sales education game, and I've got this post-it note next to me, and literally it's got know, like, trust written down. That's one of the big things that's written down from the session. You're right. I think, keeping those things simple is a really important ingredient to success. Build your connections,
Mm.
go out of your way to make connections with people, not with an end game in mind, but just to build those connections. And
Cool.
then those that gravitate to you, those that will are likely to stick and potentially become clients are the ones that like you. And then when you've got that like component ticked off, then there's the trust. The trust is the last piece, and people will go, so tell me more about this. You said something about I could do something about my shoulder. What does that look like? So they've kind of got to that point where they're ready to buy. And that's just a way of being a good operator is to
Mm.
work through that process and build that community and build those human connections.
Cool. So, keeping that in mind, the know, like, and trust, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, Rich? I've known you for what, 10, 11 years, I think. We
Wow.
met in the old Kaizen days in
Yes.
Australia in a
Yeah.
mentorship with Dave Leo.
Yeah.
Um, when I think back, it seems like a long time ago, but at the same time, not that long ago. But why
Yeah.
don't you give us a little bit of history? Because perhaps
Mm.
over the podcast, you're interviewing the, your guest, people may not know as much about you as they might know about the guests
Yeah.
each week.
Yeah, fair point, fair point. And it has been quite a journey, hasn't it? We've stayed in touch, we've studied together, we've been mentors together, we still are. And it's been a really enjoyable ride. And I think um the point in my business where that sort of changed was I realized I'd kind of hit a brick wall. I'd been doing everything myself post original training and education. And I'd exhausted my knowledge. I literally had kind of done all the things I could teach myself and go, I never knew how to do group exercise. We had, like one or two classes at college or whatever. And I was running a boot camp. I was running some small group training and individual sessions. So it kind of worked and the model worked because there was, different volumes of people and income coming in at different paces and different amounts. And that seemed to be quite stable, but I kind of needed more. I know needed something else, and it was that point at which I came across Dave and had jumped on a call like this on Zoom, and he was like, "Well, what are you looking for?" And I was like, "I don't really know, but something." And so I took the risk and just took the leap of faith and did a mentorship over in Sunshine Coast over there. And that just opened my eyes to a whole new world in terms of client treatment. And from there, that was where my business started to shift. And that new knowledge was then something I could implement with my clients. And I was then at sort of, level two, if you like, having sort of got to the end of level one and building things from a new perspective, having some different education, a different way of approaching things, and yeah, and so it became something actually became a lifelong journey of education. So I haven't really stopped, as you know. We've
Yep.
stayed on that journey with Dave and a whole bunch of other really great people in the HMC crew now. And so I sort of spend my days helping. It's evolved over time. I had a lot more female clients when I was younger, and that's evolved into probably more male clients now who would be, you know, high performing professionals who have limited time and reasonable disposable income. They're looking for a health solution. Like they need me to prescribe everything they need to do to stay on track so that they can perform at their best, and some broken bodies as well, some bodies that have got out of shape and want to get back to a better state of health. So a good mixture of different types of
Mm,
clients. I have ventured into the corporate space as well and do a few programs for organizations that will have me to, I guess, deliver, that holistic message and helping people get their head around sleep and nutrition and gut health and managing energy levels as opposed to just managing time and all those sorts of things, which have been spin-offs from the education that we've done over the years and other things that I've done for myself. And I quite enjoy the challenging clients that aren't just, oh, I've got a dodgy ankle. It's like, what's going on with your back? What's going on with your gut? What's going on with your ankle? There's always things that are going on in people's bodies which make it more interesting. So you then become a bit of a body detective.
yep.
And I really enjoy those clients because I know I can get to the bottom of it, but sometimes the pathway is different from client A to client B. So it's about sort of, finding out the history, asking all the right questions, and seeing what works sometimes, and applying different methodologies so that the client knows you're working hard for them, and there's going to
Mm,
be some progress if you keep chipping away at those things and working on that holistic, treat the whole person rather than just the symptom and the part of the body that is you know is their major concern, and just being able to listen to them, making
mm,
sure they feel heard. I think that's such an
absolutely.
underestimated skill. I've been watching a couple of videos. I can't remember the organization, but someone reasonably well known sits in the middle of a center of a room, and then there's about 20 chairs around them. And Pierce Morgan was one of them. And what's the name of the lady who was on Biggest Loser, the trainer?
Oh, Gillian.
Gillian, yeah. So Gillian was the other one. And so she will make a statement, and then it's up to them to rush to the chair in front of her and debate the topic. And then the other remaining 19 people, if they start holding up red flags, once the majority of the room has got a red flag up, then that person has to leave their chair and someone else gets to go. So it's very democratic. And the reason I raise that to make the point is that um, watching those debates, it's very interesting seeing the person who's just decided to sit down and not be able to shut up and listen.
Mm,
They want to put their point across so badly that they're not prepared to listen to the other person on the other side of the table who's made the statement. And I think that's a skill that we've lost as society, right? You need to hear what I've got to say rather than I need to stop and listen to what you are saying. And I really think that's something that we've got to focus on and
mm,
get better at as a society, because people listen to respond rather than listen to hear what's being said. And I think that's a really critical skill
mm,
in what we
mm.
do. And it's something I'm sometimes quite bad at, but I know that it's something I need to work on.
But I also think, in terms of those clients that are a little bit more complicated, they're coming in and they often feel like they haven't been heard. So it's
Hmm.
more important, I think, in some of those cases, just giving
Agreed.
them that time and space.
Agreed. Agreed.
Mm,
And it is interesting to find out where they've been prior to this moment in time, right? They may have been to the doctor, to the physio, to who knows what other practitioners. And there's a real mix of, you're going to get the good and the bad in all professions. And
mm,
they may have come up against some of the not so good, and had a bad experience and feel at the end of their tether. And I think you're right. When they get the opportunity to really say their piece and explain their journey, it makes a big difference to building that trust that we talked about earlier.
mm, mm.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, How did you come into personal training originally, Rich?
Yeah, that's another good question.
Because you weren't always a personal trainer.
No, I actually moved to New Zealand from the UK to work for Woolworths, the supermarket chain. So I worked for a large chain in the UK, and they Woolworths New Zealand was recruiting people to run their stores from Australia, and
Wow.
the Aussies would come over, and then they'd spend a couple of years doing the job, and then go back to Australia. And so they were like, this isn't working." So they went to the UK and started recruiting people from the UK, thinking, "Oh, well, the further we go, the more of a commitment it is, so they're more likely to stay." And here I am, 27 years later. So that's what brought me to New Zealand, and yeah, I worked for them for a good 6 or 7 years. Company got bought out, culture changed, shifted to a different organizations, but still essentially in that retail space, managing sort of areas and then managing a company which was a family-owned company before I made the shift, and we shifted to a franchise model prior to me leaving, and so they had company stores and franchise stores, and it was growing quite quickly. They had a good product with good margin, and it was a classic example of a business that could be franchised, but I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and I was literally reading the New Zealand Herald, sitting at the lunch table one day, and there was this little ad in the paper for a personal training course with College of Fitness back then, and I thought, oh yeah, that could be really interesting. I mean, I was a gym goer and enjoyed looking after myself and just lifting a few weights, but didn't really know how to do it well. And I thought, well, this is probably going to help. And so I did this course part time in the evenings outside of work, and kind of by about halfway through, I was like, this is fantastic. I love this stuff. Like, I mean, surrounded by all the right people who are all enthusiastic. You know, the atmosphere and the culture in those places is good. And it's obviously designed to recruit people and help people get into the industry. That's how it's all set up. But, you know, I
Yeah.
realized that it was something I wanted to do. It was a shift that I wanted to make. And so I sort of transitioned between full-time work. I did some consulting and then shifted full-time into PT work, and then that's evolved as I described earlier. So yeah, I've got this a little bit of business experience in my earlier years, which is some of
Mm.
that stuff's really useful and transferable, particularly knowledge around numbers, profit and loss, cash flow, just being reasonably confident around the numbers and knowing what's going to make things work from a business point of view and what's not.
Mm.
Yeah, so and here I am still in the industry with a few more grey hairs.
Excellent. Cool. And so you've been working mostly from your studio, which is based at your house,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
recently you've had a few changes.
That's right. Yeah. So it evolved from the garage to the gym studio. So I built a studio behind my garage. So I actually did start working for someone else up about 20 minutes north of Auckland on the Hibiscus coast, and was also seeing clients from home. And then that closed in 2016. So everything focused on working from home, which has been great from an Auckland traffic point of view, because that's pretty horrendous. And and then most recently, yeah, as you alluded to, I've bought into another business which was pre-existing, and I've become an owner of Unruly Company. So it's a an interesting business because they're very strong on the special populations front. So they work with Alzheimer's, cancer, people that are kind of underserved in the community typically, and they've got some real specialist knowledge in that space. So I feel pretty privileged to be working with those guys, and I think I also bring a different dimension to the business in terms of my training and my experience. So I think it's quite complementary how when we all sit around the table, we've all got quite different strengths, but in terms of
Mm.
the people that we're serving, I think it's a strong team. So that's still early days, but I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes and where we can take it. So I'm still doing mostly clients from home, but also some hours down at Unruly as well. So yeah, exciting times.
Yeah. Nice. Good to
Mm.
see some changes going on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Nice to be spending a few more hours with other people. So it can get a bit lonely working on your own, and I realised that I quite enjoyed that environment where there are other trainers are around me, and that was what I had when I was working at the other studio. And so it's been basically 10 years since 2016.
Oh, of
So
course.
yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
yep. Great. Wow. And so, and in terms of the corporate work, that's still trundling along pretty
yeah.
well.
Yeah, chipping
Yep.
away, chipping away. I spend a bit of time networking, deliberately networking each fortnight with a networking group who they're all other, similar business owners, and they all do different things, but they're all well connected, and often it's about who they know that can be the referral for me. And I've picked up a couple of really good referrals doing the networking thing over the years.
Mm,
You don't get many in my category. I'm not there to talk about PT. I'm there to talk about corporate well-being.
yep.
And it's not an everyday thing like a plumber or an electrician or an accountant or an insurance
Mm,
broker. But when you do get that one referral, then often it can be a really, really good one, which can create repeat business, which has been the case for me. So yeah,
great.
the corporate thing's good. I had a great year last year working with the team out in Pakuranga, which is East Auckland, creating the Eastern Busway, which is a big way of releasing some of the traffic from that junction where Pakuranga crosses the water towards Mount Wellington
Hmm.
and to Ellerslie, and was working. It's a multifunctional team, so there's a big head office and then lots of guys actually on the tools. And I was helping to deliver well-being with the HR team to all of the mostly the office team, but some of the guys on the tools as well. So that's pretty much done and dusted. So looking for the next one. Yeah.
Oh, excellent. That's great. Yeah.
Mm.
And so, in terms of the podcast, looking forward to the next 200 episodes. Have you,
No
you've got
pressure.
some plans for the podcast?
Um, Not significantly, no. I think it was always about the things that I talked about before, but I've got
Mm,
courses now which I run, which I want to promote on the podcast. So for me, it's a marketing tool as well as giving back.
yep.
So coaching for coaches is my CPD course, and the idea is that we're all essentially coaching our clients, but there are some specific skills required to do a good job of coaching because it's not about It's not the same way you would relate to someone when you're PTing with them. PT is no, you need your elbow in close. You're being very specific and very directive to get people's form right. But when you're coaching, it's completely the opposite. You're asking questions to draw out answers from clients that will help them find the solution to their challenges. And that's really why I created the course to help people understand that difference and to go, oh, well, what are the right questions? Well, how do I know? And, it goes back to that listening that we talked about
Mm,
before. So the podcast is a useful way of helping to promote that and anything else that comes along. I even advertise the advertising space. So if people have got their own courses they want to promote, then the podcast is also there for them to slot in a 30-second ad and have it played on however many episodes they want. But of course, once it's in there, it's there forever. So there's the opportunity to buy it, and it's always there
mm,
to listen to. So yeah, there's a couple of things there in the podcast, but really it's just that continuity. It's a test of resilience and stickability because you've got to be thinking ahead. You've got to be thinking, who am I going to talk to? How many have I got up my sleeve? You don't want to run out of episodes, but you also don't want to be going week to week because it can be a bit fraught, and therefore, it becomes counterproductive when all you're doing is trying to find guests and you're neglecting the other parts of your business. So it's
yeah.
finding that balance sometimes, which is tricky. But I did stop for a little bit. I think it was 2023
Okay.
after doing powering through sort of the beginnings of well the worst part of COVID, and I kind of got over it, and then I realized that I missed it too much. So I was like, I need the podcast. I think I need it more than I realize, and um,
Wow.
and I suppose it goes back to that thing of it can get quite lonely being a solo practitioner. So Having the podcast is another way of connecting with people out there and building my network and seeing the amazing work. I'm just blown away by some of the things that people do,
Mm.
and they're so humble about it. I know when Richard promotes the awards each year, or Exercise New Zealand as a whole promote the awards each year, it's about helping to sort of reflect back to the industry how with the amazing work that everybody does, but nobody wants to put their hand up for an award. They have to be shoulder tapped because I think, you take for granted the amazing work you do and the impact that you have on
Mm.
other people. And our clients get a lot of us. They get a lot of our energy, and I like to think they get a lot of value for the time they spend with us. But it's nice to recognize that stuff as well, and I think the podcast helps to do that too.
Yep,
Mm,
yep, absolutely. Just coming back to the coaching for coaches course, I think that's it really fills a gap in the market. Because not a lot of it seems to me that if you're in your early days of personal training, you may not be aware about those coaching skills and how helpful they can be.
mm,
And getting stuck on being so directive can be a barrier
mm.
in those early days.
Yeah, you're right. And it's interesting when I started to learn more about it, the science of cha behavior change and, some of the models that can be used to achieve a good outcome. Um, I was quite, it's like this cognitive dissonance. There was this frustration inside me that you kind of know what people need because you've seen it so many times. And I'm sitting there asking questions going, I know what you need to do. You need to do this, this, and this. Go, because typically we've been used to kind of doing that. Well, what do I need to do? People kind of just want a solution, but that isn't the answer to getting the long-term outcomes that people actually need. And I think when you do that coaching, it's really important to pre-frame that with people and explain the process if they haven't been coached before, because it isn't about telling them what to do. And I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with becoming patient with the process and
Mm,
and waiting for the client to get to the point where they're ready to change. And we know the whole behavior change model, right? There's the
mm,
pre-contemplation, there's the contemplation, and then there's the action. And so, that's where you've got to be patient as a practitioner to understand that people need to go through their various stages before they're ready to take action. And sometimes they fall off the wagon and they have to cycle back up to somewhere near the beginning again. So yeah, I think you're right, Ray. I think it does fill a bit of a gap, and I'm sure that's not the only thing on the market available. I'm sure there's lots of other options, but I like to think that it does help people and it's accessible. It's not ridiculously expensive. It gives them CPDs, and it just gets them just started on that journey of thinking beyond how do I coach someone? Well, here's a format. Here's a bunch of questions. Here's some things to think about in terms of how people think. Here's some tips on the words they're using, helping you become aware of their mindset and the words they use and the way they use them helps you understand where they're at. And that can give you clues as to, well, where do I go next with my questioning based on the response? And you'll always come across differences in people, but the thing I find that comes up quite regularly is the the um, the limiting beliefs.
mm,
People have limiting beliefs, and it just evolves over time. But when they'll reveal a limiting belief in their language to you, it gives you a really good opportunity to hook into it and challenge them,
mm. Yeah,
and challenge them in a respectful way, so that you're just holding a mirror up and you're helping them look at that mirror, which they may never have wanted to do before. Subconsciously, subconscious. Most of this stuff is subconscious. But
yeah.
you consciously get to hold the mirror up to them, and they get an opportunity to reflect and go, yeah, actually, I did make that up for myself, and I decided that when XYZ happened because of something else, and therefore I've gone down this path of believing that I can't lose this weight, or I can't achieve this goal that I need to achieve,
Mm.
or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think it's a useful tool. I hope people take advantage of it when it's available. September, early September is the next one.
Oh, that's a little while away. You have to keep plugging at it, plugging
Yeah,
it in your
yeah.
podcast.
I
Keep
will.
reminding
There'll
people.
be ads dropping into the podcast as we approach September for sure.
I think those limiting beliefs, the thing that always gets to me is, okay, so what are we going to do this week at the end of the session? What are we going to do this week? What's the focus? And someone might say, I think I'll try and do A, B, C. I'm
Mm.
like, okay, you'll think you're going to try to do the thing. But oh my God, we're just not there yet, are
Yeah.
we?
Yeah.
And then I have to back off, start again. Yep, ease into it. It can be quite frustrating, but
Mm.
being aware of those sort of nuances in the language and what people are saying, I think that's been really helpful. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I've done some training in neuro-linguistic programming as well. So that NLP, which is it's fascinating when you get into a subject. And again, that's given me another layer of sort of understanding of how people tick.
Mm.
And the words they use, like I said before, and people can make statements which are kind of very finite. The example is he never understands what I'm talking about. So he
Yeah.
never understands. So is this true? Like never? Ever? So you can pause on the particular word that makes it a statement, which it's either, which in this case it's a generalization. There are other things that we do where we distort as well,
Mm.
and sometimes we delete. So these are sort of three big areas which human brains naturally do these things. A, to save energy, because the brain obviously one of its primal
Mm.
drives is survival, but also when it comes down to mindset, we do get stuck in these paradigms, and it's useful for a coach to be able to, like I said, hold the mirror and go, never or just sometimes, Oh well, maybe just sometimes. Okay, so and how many times is sometimes, So when you drill down and you ask for real specifics, the generalization starts to evaporate, and the client realizes that actually the statement they made wasn't very accurate and may not even be true, only partially true. But their brains have become quite fixed on certain things,
Mm.
and until they get challenged on it in the right way, they're not going to be able to move past it. So, you know,
Absolutely.
there are lots of examples of that when it comes to behavior change, which,
Mm.
as coaches, I think it's our job to help people get through those obstacles so that they can make the progress that they need.
Mm.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Totally agree. So, Rich, let's have a look. What are your top tips for
Mm.
a maybe a new trainer or a trainer who's maybe 1 to 5 years out?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's a really good idea, asking for top tips, Ray.
I don't know where I got that from.
No idea. Um, the thing that keeps coming back to me, and the thing I didn't do quick enough, was to get that mentor advice, to get that support, someone who's been there, done that, knows more than me, is approachable. It's got to be the right person as well as the right knowledge, and speed the process up, because there is no doubt when you have someone who you can be coached by over, let's say, on a monthly basis, that's frequently enough to really make some change. It accelerates your progress. Whichever way you're going, even if you're not sure where you're going, you'd clarify that first. It then speeds the process up. So my first tip would absolutely be find a mentor or find some guidance from somewhere. I mean, it could even be your bank manager or your accountant. It doesn't matter who it is, but it's someone that's going to accelerate your journey. A, because they know stuff you don't, and B, they're slightly emotionally distanced from it, so it doesn't it they can make a totally objective statement or judgment, and it doesn't
Mm.
affect them once the conversation is finished in the same way that it does you. And I think that's really, really useful,
Yeah.
and can't be underestimated. In fact, if I was getting into the industry and I was going, right, how much do I need to make? How am I going to make it? What does that look like? My spreadsheet would have an expense line on there saying mentor, and I would budget to have a mentor in my expenses based on however many clients I needed and how much they were
Mm.
paying me, because I think that's just a critical component of success in business. And you may not necessarily stay with the same one. As you evolve
Mm.
as a practitioner and as a person, your self-development might mean that you've kind of got to the point where you actually need something different from somebody, and so you might move on and find someone different. But I still think having that person in your corner is a really important piece of business ownership.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
definitely be number
Agree.
one. I think I'm sort of leaning on the weight of evidence that from all of my interviews with people that, building a community and people around you and your business is really, really important. And a couple of examples I'd give is that I had one mate who got divorced recently, well, not recently now, it's probably a couple of years ago, and another who was made redundant from a CEO role. And I made a point of connecting with them on a social level because, they were going to be, I knew they'd be going through some tough times, and it'd be nice for them to open up, share whatever they needed to do at the time. So one was a coffee and one was a beer, depending on the person. And it was purely out of support. Like, I just wanted to know that I was there if they needed me, and um, it was as simple as that. But the fantastic thing from that is that both of them ended up becoming clients, and that wasn't part of the design. That's just, it just happened. Now one still is, and the other isn't, because what was needing to be done was different. One was on a longer journey, one was rehabbing something, But the point being is that I think when you reach out and you make that human connection, I think, and with no expectations, I think that's an important part of that. No expectations. You're doing it on a human level. It's surprising how powerful some of those conversations can be when they contact you later and go, actually, Rich, I've got this thing, and I wonder if you might be able to help me with it. It wasn't about making a sale. It wasn't about anything other than just being a human, a good human and a support to these people who I knew. And it turned out that that was actually quite good for business. So I'm not saying be strategic and, hunt these people down and then turn them into a sale. I'm just saying, be a good human, and surprisingly, that it's amazing how the world can find that things go your way. So yeah, I don't know how you'd sum that up as a tip, but it is about those connections. And I think
Yep.
the other things that I've done in my community was be part of things like, the local summer soccer club. So I can't play soccer for toffee. I can run in a straight line quite well, but you asked me to dribble a ball and go sideways, no chance.
That's too much multitasking.
It's too difficult. But the point being is that every Friday night I'd go and play soccer with these guys, and have a cold beer afterwards as we either commiserated or celebrated the outcome. And it's about people knowing who you are. It's
Mhm.
not so much it's who you know. It's more like who knows you. And I think we just need to be proactive in our communities and do things for free. And I think that's a component of maybe working in a on a charitable board or a local committee or whatever it may be to give back.
Mhm.
Because then people will get to know you and what you do and how you do it, and you're building that awareness, and then eventually someone will go, oh, what do you do? And you can tell them, and that's just a nice byproduct of being a good community-minded person. So, and
Yeah.
that's not new, and that's not revolutionary in terms of its advice, but I've seen that in a few conversations that I've had, and I think those people have got really good businesses as a result. So that would certainly be another top tip.
Great.
And then the kind of my last one, I think, I mean, I could keep going, but I think the last one there is systems and processes. That's kind of one of the things that I learned from other business experiences, is that if you don't have systems and processes in your business, it's not going to keep going as well as it could do. You're going to be
Mm.
doing far more work in your business and far less work on your business over the course of however many years it lasts, because you're always going to be fighting fires, and systems and processes help you put those fires out and leave them out, because this is the way such and such happens in the business, and all you have to do is just keep spinning the plate, and then you go back to another plate, and you go back to another plate, and you go back to another plate. And so once they're spinning, all you've got to do is maintain them and it's not about reinventing the wheel every time something comes up.
Mm.
And I think that's probably partly what I picked up from the franchise work, is that when you create a franchise, you literally create a manual, and the manual is, the largest lever arch file you can find, probably online now, but in terms of, it's like, how does this business run from when the key goes in the door to open it to when the
Yeah.
key goes out of the door to close it, and every single action between those two key turns, needs to be documented somehow so that if you've got knocked over by a bus, someone could walk in there and go, okay, I'll do that. And how do I do X, Y, Z? Oh, page 64. Right, that's how I do that job. So that would be my recommendation there is to document how everything occurs in your business and then you just keep those plates spinning because you've got a way. And if something comes along, like let's say you decide to put all of your client documentation online and it becomes electronic, then you're going to have to change that process, right? That process shifts from paper to digital or whatever it may be. You document that, you update the manual or whatever it is, and that's how things are done around here now.
Mm,
Yeah.
yep, cool. So we had get a mentor as soon as you can.
Yep.
We had build community, communicate with people, get
Yeah.
face to face with them,
Mm.
and systems and processes. Make sure you've got
Mm.
some.
Yeah. I like
Yep,
it. Yeah.
great.
Great. Awesome.
Thanks, Rich. It's been very enlightening today.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um,
It's been nice. Yeah.
yeah. How does it feel to have the tables turned?
A bit uncomfortable actually. It's like it's probably a good thing. It's healthy, right? You know, it's like driving to work a different way. It's like, yeah,
Yep,
I
yep.
know I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna be able to stop the recording in a moment, but uh just a little bit uncomfortable until I get there. So
Yep.
it's probably something that we should all do a little bit more of, I think.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your
Awesome.
time today, Rich.
Oh, I likewise, thank you for yours. It's been fun.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you're back to your regular scheduled program next week.
Thanks, Ray.
See you later,
Awesome.
Rich.
Cheers. Bye.